Welcome to the Book Cave, the grandest library by land or by sea. So, if you can't tell what today's video is about, it is about Caraval. And if you saw my January TBR pick, you'll see that I was a little upset at picking this just because I wanted 6 books, and yeah, this kind of took all of them, so I didn't get to pick any others, but that's okay. I am excited to read this series, and I have actually already started. I have gotten about 173 pages in, but I'm going to start with non spoilers. So, this is about two sisters. You have Scarlett and Tella, who are just a year apart, and Scarlett is the older one. They live on this island, and their father is the mayor. And they have dreamed of going to this magical show called Caraval for years. Scarlett, however, is now engaged to be married, and so she thinks all her dreams are gone until she gets a letter. And yeah, so that's really all I can say without spoilers. And I will say, up until they actually get to Caraval, this is a little boring, but once they get to Caraval, it does get kind of fun, and I enjoy kind of like seeing the game and everything. And yeah, so now I'm going to get into spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled for up to page 175 of Caraval, you should go ahead and click off now. So the sisters escape with the help of a sailor called Julian, and then when they are in the competition, there is a boy named Damien that they meet. And we quickly find out Julian has played Caraval before. And you find out Damien has as well. Damien won Caraval the year that him and Julian played. However, he did lose something important while playing. That's why he's back this year, because the prize will be a wish. So, yeah. And I do know that the Prince of Hearts, the Jack of Hearts, it goes by Jax, is introduced in this series, and then his main story is in Once Upon a Broken Heart. So I'm having fun trying to figure out what character might be Jax. And obviously right now I have two main suspects for who could be Jax, and that is Julian and Damien. For the fact that they do both seem a little on the villainous side, although maybe not super villainous, they are a little on the darker side. And they've both played Caraval before. They both seem to have lost something. So I'm like, okay, that could be him. Another one I'm thinking of, it could be Master Legend. But I'm not too sure about that. Just because we don't actually, haven't actually met him. And then I've also gotten far enough that now Tella has been kidnapped. And this is where the whole sister plot is falling apart a little bit. Scarlett acts like she cares so much, she's so worried. And yet, there are times when it seems like she forgets about Tella. And it seems to happen kind of frequently. And I suppose some of it can be her just getting swept up. And then she seems much more concerned, however, with her marriage, which I do get. She thinks it's going to save her and everything. But yeah, it's just kind of like how much does she really care? How much does Tella really care? But like I said, I'm only about halfway through, so I've still got a good bit to go. I made it up to the night 2 of Caraval is where I'm at. And I do like how it's split. Like, it really makes sense the way it's split. You know, being that Caraval takes place over 5 nights. And it's split into those 5 nights. Plus, the first part was when they were on the island of Trisda. And then the next part was Caraval Eve. And that's another thing, is like the world building for Trisda, the Conquered Isles, and then all these other empires. I'm like, is it really going to matter? Could this have not just been set in our world, and then Caraval is just this magic carnival, basically? That could, very easily work as well. Although I do think that's kind of what the Night Circus has done, so then it might feel a little too repetitive of that. But yeah, I've kind of went into rambling here, so I'm going to stop, and I will update you all when I get a little further in. So I now finished Caraval, and I do have to say, I really liked the cliffhanger at the ending. I felt like that definitely sets us up to jump right into the next book, which the library needed me to return, and then they were closed yesterday because of the snow, even though somebody else had returned a copy of Legendary as well, and it's on its way. So yeah, I kind of can't start that quite yet. Hopefully it will come in today so I can pick it up this evening and start it sometime this week, because I am definitely interested in seeing who Legend really is and finding out what did Tella promise and all of that fun stuff. And yeah, I do have to say that I got a little frustrated with Scarlet and Tella. Like, they both seem to just fall for these guys immediately, and that kind of really bugged me. But again, I get that they are young, and that's kind of how things happen sometimes. But yeah, it still irked me a little bit, and I felt like there was a lot of potential for the atmosphere of Caraval, but I just felt that it, like, somehow fell flat. Maybe it was because Scarlet was so cautious and so worried about trying to find Tella, and so that kind of translated into her not having as much of a sense of wonder. But yeah, I definitely can recommend this if you like YA game-based stories. And I do have high hopes, since this was, I want to say, Stephanie Garber's debut. So yeah, I definitely will be continuing. And it wasn't bad. It was more just kind of middle of the road. So I gave it, the middle of the road 3 stars. And yeah, I'm definitely excited to start Legendary and see how things progress. So I said at the end of the last video for Caraval that I had to return Legendary, and funny story about that. So I returned Legendary, and then the very next day another copy was in transit to me, and then the day after that we had a snowstorm, so the library was closed, and then it wound up showing up Tuesday, and then I didn't get a chance to pick it up Tuesday or Wednesday, so I picked it up today, Thursday. So I have it, and I do plan to start reading it. And like I said, I do have high hopes for this. This one is about Tella, and this one says that Tella made a desperate bargain with a mysterious criminal, and what Tella owes him, no one has ever been able to deliver. And apparently this takes place in the Caraval game again, and this is like the next year. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to read that, and I love the little red spade here. And so yeah, and the one thing that I've been kind of obsessed with since starting Caraval is when we will meet Jax, just because I've heard so much about him. So I'm wondering if this mysterious stranger she made a deal with was Jax. And if he is, that will make me very happy, because then we get to meet him even sooner. So yeah, I'm excited to dive right into this and see what I think. I've made it about halfway through Legendary. We are now on night 2 of the current Caraval, and I'm very happy to report that Jax is now in the book. I had been, as you have seen from the clips of book 1, I was looking forward to finding him, and was kind of surprised he wasn't in book 1, and he's definitely a lot darker than what I thought he would be. And yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how this plays out and who everyone winds up really being. And I am definitely enjoying Tella a little bit more than Scarlet, and I am still not really feeling that sisterly bond. We see it in places, but it feels like, although it's deep, it's not very strong. It seems like it's very easily overridden by other things. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to finish this up and then see how it continues on in the next book. And then I'm definitely excited to start the Once Upon a Broken Heart series and learn more about Jax. So I finished Legendary, and yeah, I did enjoy this a lot more than I did Caraval. I felt like Tella being a little more bold and like kind of willing to go after what she wanted, not playing it safe, you know, all that good stuff, led to this being more exciting. And the cliffhanger this ended on, I was so mad because I took this to work with me, and I had, I think, like 40-ish pages left, and so I read on break, and then it became lunchtime, and I read what was left, and I got to the end with the cliffhanger, and I still had like 15 minutes left in lunch, so I could have started finale, but I did not bring finale with me. And I was like really upset about that, because I'm definitely interested to see where this goes. And yeah, I've heard some people say that they feel like Caraval is the strongest and the others get weaker. But yeah, I just felt like this was much stronger. I really honestly felt like this was kind of a whole different world. And I think I did say that earlier, but you know, learning about the fates and the fallen stars. And I really hope we get to learn more about the stars in the next book, because I'm like really excited for that. And I'm really excited to see how everything plays out with Tella, Scarlet, Julian, Jax, and Legend, and, you know, all the players. And yeah, I'm just really fascinated by everything that's come up in this book, and I'm definitely excited to start finale. So I'm just a few pages into finale, and I actually already have quite a bit of quotes that I really like. So it opens with, every story has 4 parts: the beginning, the middle, the almost ending, and the true ending. Unfortunately, not everyone gets a true ending. Most people give up at the part of the story where things are the worst, when the situation feels hopeless, but that is where hope is needed most. Only those who persevere can find their true ending. And then we go into, obviously, from that quote, this book is going to have 4 parts: beginning, middle, almost ending, true ending. And then we have before the beginning, which is when Scarlet and Tella are young. And so they're in a fight because there was a piece of jewelry that Scarlet was using as a crown. And so she's upset because the thing got broken. And her mother says, "A true queen's power isn't in her crown, my little love. It's here." Her mother placed a hand over her heart. Then she turned to Tella. "Are you going to tell me that I don't need treasure to be a pirate, or that my greatest treasure is right here?" Tella put a tiny hand over her heart, mimicking her mother. If Scarlet had done it, their mother would have imagined the gesture to be sincere, but their mother could see the devilry in Tella's eyes. Tella had a spark that could either set the whole world ablaze or give it a much-needed light. So that just sounds like very intriguing for this book. And I do believe we're going to wind up with 3 POVs, because in the synopsis it says that basically Scarlet, Tella, and Legend all have choices to make and things to do. So I'm assuming it's probably going to follow all 3 of them. But I'm definitely intrigued to read this. It sounds like it will be different than the other 2, although it definitely will still fit in with it. But I'm going to read more and update you all when I have a little more to say. So I'm about halfway through finale, and I'm actually really enjoying this. This has been my favorite of the 3 Caraval books so far. And yeah, I'm not gonna spoil too much here. There might be some mild spoilers. So we obviously have both Tella and Scarlet in a love triangle. Tella's I'm definitely a little more interested in, and I love the comment she makes about, you know, if I'm going to pick the villain, it's going to be that villain. And it's like, I love that she is fully aware that both of her men are villains in a way. But yeah, it's definitely a fun little cat and mouse on her side. Scarlet's I'm not so interested in. And I also feel like Scarlet is very distant. Like, she just seems kind of cold. And I mean, I understand why she doesn't 100% trust people. But then something happens with Tella. Something happens with her mother. And she's just kind of upset for a minute, and then all of a sudden she's out on a date. And yeah, that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But then when I read a little further, I'm starting to see like where that might come from. Yeah, and I'm really enjoying learning about the fates in this book. Like, they're playing an absolutely huge part. And that was my main gripe with between books 1 and 2, is that, well, I absolutely, again, loved the Fates in book 2. I felt like there was very little setup for them in book 1. And book 1 and 2 just felt really separate. Whereas now, going from book 2 to book 3, they feel very similar. Like, they feel like they're in the same world. And I apologize for the racket that my fan is making. Hopefully that won't come through too bad when I post this. But yeah, that is my update, and I'm definitely going to be reading some more now. So I'm done the finale now, and I have to say this is my favorite out of the 3 books. And some of the things that irritated me a little bit in the first 2, mostly with Scarlet being like, oh, my pink love, or, you know, the dark green anger, that kind of irritated me a little bit. I feel like this brings it a lot more, like, it makes sense. And I also absolutely loved the fact that the Fates were in here. I kind of wish that this would have been like book 1, and this would have been more of a focus of the whole series. And I am now definitely super excited to get on to Once Upon a Broken Heart, because like most people, absolutely love Jax. I am very interested to see what happens after this. And yeah, he was just a very interesting character. And I hope we get more of the Fates in the other ones. And yeah, so I'm going to, after I finish Spectacular, is when I'm going to start Once Upon the Broken Heart. And that will be in a different vlog, but this will be in this one. And I can already tell you, I'm extremely intrigued by this thing here with the kind of like introduction publication info. And it says, this book may be purchased, gifted, or borrowed, but under no circumstances should copies of this story be transported to the Magnificent North. The magic of this book does not mix well with the cursed story magic of the Magnificent North. So I'm really hoping that we get to learn some more about the Magnificent North in either this or, again, Once Upon a Broken Heart. And yes, I know I was meant to read all of these in January, and I don't think I mentioned this when I started Finale, but I started Finale at the very end of May. It is now June 8th, and I'm just now reading Spectacular. So, however, this is kind of like an early Christmas. You know, we're 6 months past Christmas and 6 months till Christmas. So this is my early Christmas present. And that's all I have to say about that. So I'm going to read this and get back to you all. So it's a little bit later, and I have finished Spectacular. And this is definitely a Christmas read. It does have really good kind of like Christmas holiday, winter holiday vibes. More strongly, though, I would say Christmas, because you have like the holiday trees and such, and the carousels and nutcrackers. But it was cute enough. I'm not going to say that it added much to the plot, but it was cute. And I did love the fact that it's illustrated. And yeah, we get like a lot of illustrations throughout. At the beginning of each chapter, you have, you know, one of these. And yeah, it was a really quick little cute read. I don't know that I'm necessarily a huge fan of some of the stuff that happened in here, just because of, you know, the fact that you're not necessarily sure what's going on. And even though in the end things turn out to be the way that would make it alright, I'm not sure how I feel about how we got there. I'm trying to be vague, you know, to not have spoilers, because obviously this takes place after the whole series, so, yeah. But this also focuses mostly on Legend and Tella. We do get a very little bit of Scarlet and Julian. I do wish actually we had gotten a little more of that, and a little more of like the political, because we have a character who popped up in book 3 and was obviously not trustworthy, and then we find out in here that he is somebody now that Scarlet trusts out of absolutely nowhere. That honestly bothered me just a little bit. But yeah, overall, if you liked the Caraval series, and if you're looking for something that feels kind of like wintry and festive, I would say this definitely has those vibes. But yeah, so obviously now I have finished the Caraval series, so that's all I have for this video. And as always, if you like this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe. That way you'll be notified every time I post a new video. And I will see you next time in the book cave, hopefully with Once Upon a Broken Heart, but I'm not entirely sure what my next video will be. So just stay tuned and come hang out with me again.